This meeting is now being recorded.
Hi, and welcome to the Group Insurance Commission's MAGIC Coordinator Training. My name is Michelle Kramer, and I'm a consultant with the Boston Data Group, who has partnered with the Group Insurance Commission to develop this new MAGIC application. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we begin today. We're going to give you an introduction to the system and some training, and we're going to talk about the timeline for when you're going to be utilizing this. I want to make sure that you know that this is a web-based application. You will be receiving an email during the week of March 27th, 2017. That email will contain the URL that you will utilize to access this system. It will also include information for your login and password. This is a temporary password, and you will then have to change it when you do log in. Our system is a secure system. A couple of housekeeping things as we get set to go today. The first one is that all the data that you see is fictitious, with the exception of the carrier and plan information. But any information relevant to an insured that you see on the screen is made up. I also want to just remind folks that the same rules and guidelines that exist in the current MAGIC system exist in the new system as well. For example, a new employee has 10 business days to make their benefit elections, and you have 21 business days for the GIC to receive that paperwork. None of that has changed. Those guidelines still exist. With that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the new MAGIC system. When you do arrive on our URL, you will notice that the top left has the MAGIC logo, and the top right has the state of Massachusetts seal. You know that you're on our secure site when you see those two items. You'll also see that there's a welcome screen with a username and a password. This information that you see below here, which we're going to discuss in a minute, is located here on the login page, and it's also located on the next screen, which is the home screen. Once you, on your first attempt, when you type in here, you will get a message that says you must change your password, and you will do that right away. You also can change your password any day you like by just simply clicking the box that says change password on that login screen. When you do log into our home screen, you'll notice that our navigation bar up top has 3 tabs for you: Benefit Management, Reports, and Admin. We'll be talking about all 3 of those sections today, but first I want to give you a little bit of an update on what this News and Alerts and the rest of the screen is all about. First of all, News and Alerts is something that will be updated on a regular basis. You can see that we've updated it to welcome all of you coordinators, and it also is updated to state that annual enrollment is coming up soon so that people are aware. Other messages that might be placed here is if the system were going to be updated for another feature, that would be included here. If there was information about something to do with the annual enrollment or plans, any of those news and alerts will be placed here for you. Our site is best viewed using Internet Explorer 11. And then we do want to make note that we do have a warning here. This information is restricted to just authorized users who have logins and passwords. So please make sure that you don't share that login and password with anyone else. Again, this is private information. If you do have questions about processing enrollments, changes, or just simply navigating the new system, we ask that you contact the GIC's audit unit at this phone number. Additionally, if you experience technical issues, please send us an email at magic.help@massmail.state.ma.us. I would say that there's no need for you to write this information down, as it will always appear here on the home screen for you to reference, as well as out there on the login screen. Accessibility, we have been reviewed by the Massachusetts Department of Disabilities, and they have blessed our system to date. So if you do have any questions about our system, we do ask that you send an email to gic.ada if those questions are regarding anything to do with accessibility. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead on to our very first tab up here, which is Benefit Management. Also, please note that we're logged in today. This happens to be my user ID. and I'm representing GIC as an agency. So what you're going to see today is as if you were a coordinator for GIC. We're going to go ahead and click on Benefit Management, and you'll notice that there's 3 different ways to search the database that we have. You can search for an insured's GIC ID, or you can search for their employee ID. You can also search by their last name and first name, or by the dependent's last name and first name. Please note that you can only put information in one of these 3 in order to search. So let's go ahead and bring up my friend Abra. Abracadabra lives out in Salem, Massachusetts, and as you'll see, the search results grid appears, and you can tailor this if you wish. If you should get a lot of results, in this case we only got 2, but if for some reason you have a very large agency and you have a lot of people with the same last name, maybe Smith, you could certainly come over here into our search box, which is located throughout our system, this search box, and I could type in Maple, which is actually Abra Street, and it would narrow the results. I'll show you where we have the search box in some other locations as well. So let's go ahead and open up this screen for Abracadabra. And we land here on what we call the Personal Information screen. The Personal Information screen has 3 sections. The first section actually does have specific personal information relevant to your insured. The second section is coverage information, and the third section is dependent information. This information is all available right here on the Personal Information screen. A couple of other things that I want to show you on this screen relevant to standards that exist throughout our system is that we have active and all buttons. The active button shows you only those coverages which are active. And I'd like to pause a moment and give you a definition of active, as there's 3 circumstances that fit this. The first one is what you're seeing on the screen right here. The effective dates are all in the past, and the term dates have not occurred yet. So these coverages are all considered to be active. The second circumstance where I would be seeing an active coverage is if there was a term date in any of these fields. For example, if Optional Life said April 30th, 2017, and today when we're doing this webinar, we haven't yet gotten to April 30th, that coverage would appear. And the third circumstance that you'll see active is if this is a new person and they have coverages, for example, beginning in May. So their coverage is beginning May, they have no term date, those coverages would be considered active. If I click on the All button, I'm able to see coverages that have previously terminated for Abra. I can once again, as I mentioned to you, the search button is used throughout the system, and I could come over here and I could search for LTD and just bring up the specific LTD coverages that are here in this All section. The other active and all are down here on the Dependent tab. I can show active or I can show all dependents. In this case, the spouse is active. Mark Cadabra is also active, as his coverages don't expire until his 19th birthday. Another piece that you'll find throughout our system, in addition to active and all and search, are these little minus and plus signs that you see. And they do exactly what I just showed you. A minus sign will collapse the section so it's all closed up, and a plus sign will open it up. The next thing that is throughout our system, and you'll see it here first on the coverage screen, coverage section, and the dependent section, is that we have a select box. In this case, Abra is currently an active employee, active insured employee for us. He has no term date and no term reason, and he currently has active coverages. Given that information, when you click on the Select button under Action for Abra, you'll see that you have 2 options, Edit and View. The Edit button is available because he has active coverages. Down below, for dependents, you only have a choice to view. All of the editing of dependents is done by the GIC staff upon your submission of paperwork. Let's go ahead and click on the view up here for coverages, and let me show you that we actually then show you a list of that coverage and all the changes since the start. So, for example, on October 1st of 2008, ABRA began his Hartford Life $5,000 coverage with this premium, this cost split, and this payment method. On August 1st of 2009, there was a change, and therefore you see another row of information here. And then again in July of 2011, there's another change. And so it continues. You'll note that the fields across the top do vary. The standards are from, through, premium, cost split, and payment method. But let me go ahead and show you that if I were to click on View for the health plan, you'll notice that we give you the status, we give you the coverage holder. So who actually is holding that particular health plan? Is it the insured or is it the spouse, for example? And then if we click on Optional Life, you'll note that we're giving you a description of the optional life coverage, the non-smoker, the amount of coverage, and how many times. We're going to go ahead and add an optional life and add some of these coverages later on. This is how they view for somebody who already has them. In LTD, we can click View, and you'll notice in this case we've listed the salary here for you because the salary is important in the LTD. Once again, same fields going across here, the from, the through, the premium, cost split, payment method. And last, dental. Go ahead and look at dental, and you can see that they only had one dental, and it's starting in the future, actually, on July 1st. So we only have the one line. Down the bottom, when we click on View for the dependent, you'll notice that we view all of the information, Thomas's first name, last name, his middle initial, date of birth, his gender, the effective date on the health coverage, and the marriage certificate, the date that we received the marriage certificate from you. If I hit close on this record, you'll note that a lot of that information is actually here on the main screen as well. We have his name, we have his ID, we have his gender, date of birth. We don't have the date that you submitted the paperwork, etc. And that is specifically for the health coverage. I'm going to click on Active for this. Let's go ahead here and click on View for the dependent. And the information looks very similar. It's the exact same screen, but you'll notice in this case for the dependent, the birth date is populated for the certificate received. So whatever the specific certificate is that's required in order for us to activate that coverage, you'll submit that, and when it's data entered, this screen will then be created along with the information that you provided us. I'm going to take a moment and just pause on this screen and give you a chance to look at it in case you wanted to note a question that you wanted to submit at some point to an auditor or to Magic.Health and give you a chance to review. Okay, at the top, let's just review the personal information that is available here for you to see. Many of these fields are required fields, and as you'll note, there's no edit of this section. The data in this section comes to us initially either through the form that you submit for a new hire, but most times it comes through the weekly in the case of HRCMS or the every other week in the case of UMass electronic feed. When that feed comes in, we create this record so that then you can add the coverages once you have the chosen coverages from the insured. If you should see anything here that looks incorrect, you would want to make sure that you change that in your HRCMS personnel system. And then, as I mentioned, we would get a change feed and we would update this information for you. In this case, we're showing you the last four of the GIC ID. We do mask the beginning of the information. The name, the gender, Social Security number, the address appears here, home phone. In this case, we have no work phone for ABRA. It's not a required field, so it is okay for that to be blank. His status is ACT. For all of you folks, the only statuses you will see here is ACT. because that's what you can have in your agency. What agency I'm a coordinator for and that this individual works for, their date of birth, their hire date, salary, salary effective date, and then their full-time hours and standard hours. And as we mentioned before, ABRA is actually currently active, so his term date and term reason are not populated. Because those are not populated, once again, we are able to edit his coverage, and we're also able to do an add. He has all 5 coverages, though, so there wouldn't be anything to add at this time for a qualifying event, but the add button is activated. Let's go ahead and take a minute, and let's go do another search. And we're going to go find Abra's cousin. And Monterey Cadabra, you'll notice everything is very similar. Got to the search results screen, and now we've come to the personal information screen for Monterey Cadabra. The difference in Monterey's screen, however, is that he does have a term date and he does have a term reason. Therefore, there is no add button available for you, and there is no edit available on the coverage grid. Even though these coverages do not expire based on today's date, they don't expire till the end of April, these coverages are no longer editable by you because there is a term date. I have been told by many that instead of searching by last name and first name, you folks tend to search by a user employee ID. So let's go ahead and search for an ID. And let me go back to that because I forgot to show you something. I type in the user ID, and you'll notice that it is masked. But if you want to know what you typed, you can go ahead and click on this little eyeball right here. I click and I hold my mouse down, and it shows me the numbers I've typed in. The minute I release my button, and I'm utilizing a PC, so if you have a Mac, it's just slightly different. The minute I release the button, the information is once again hidden. So I actually notice when I do this that I typed in the incorrect number. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that, and I'm going to retype the number that I'm looking for. And I'm going to click search. You'll notice that we've landed on Josephine Cadabra's personal information screen. Josephine's information, I'm going to check it all here because it looks like her record is new. She was created in the system on March 15th. So I might take a moment and verify her information. And then in front of me, I have all of Josephine's paperwork because she would like to have us create her coverages. She's enrolling. So let's go ahead and click on Add on Josephine's coverage section. And you'll notice that the page that we are landing on is the Add Coverage screen. We're going to click on New Hire here in the coverage event. And I want to let you know that using the system is like reading a book. So you always want to start at the top left page and read across. Come back to the next line, read across, back to the next line and across. I think you guys probably get that. So I've chosen a new hire. You'll see that her event date of the date of hire was March 15th, and therefore her effective date is 6/1/17. I come down to the coverages, and that meets the requirement of 60 days or 2 months. I come down to the coverages, and I can see that I can add basic life for Josephine. I can't add health right now, and I can't add optional life, but I can add LTD. It's not an error. I first must click on basic life and activate that coverage in order for health and optional life to become available. If you don't have basic life, you can't hold health coverage or optional coverage. So now the health coverage is available to me. I click on this, and I come over here, and I'm going to go ahead and put her into a Tough Spirit family coverage. You'll notice that she is the coverage holder. You'll notice that we've populated her salary here for you and the effective date. Again, reading left to right and moving down, I'm going to go ahead and populate her optional life. It asks me what multiple or a fixed amount would I like. In this case, I'm going to choose 2. And you'll notice reading to the right that the optional amount is populated for me, and it's not editable. Her salary times the 2 multiplier and through the calculation yields the the $131,000 optional amount. I need to note that she's a non-smoker. I need to come down to the LTD, and if I choose that she wants LTD, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And now everything is filled out the way I wish. Oops, I meant to type 3 times. I can still change that. Oops, she wanted 2 times. I was right the first time. So that is still editable for you. I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. And you'll notice that it said we were saving coverages. So I'll pause for a moment here and let you take a look. We have added 4 coverages for Josephine, the Hartford Basic Life, the Tough Spirit Family, her Optional Life for LTD, the premiums that will be in effect on June 1st for these coverages. Take a minute. One of the things that I didn't mention to you when we were on Abra's screen, and I'll take you back and show you, but you'll notice that the current total premium is listed as 0 here. The current premium is the total of all of these items. So in this case, these coverages don't start until June 1st. The deductions for these coverages will be taken in May. So once we get to May 1st, 2017, this current premium would be populated. We're not there yet, so it's not populated. I'm going to go back to my friend Abra and show you that his total was calculated here. All of these add up to this number. And that number is readily available. If you should see a W down here, meaning that a particular coverage has a waiver, then that amount would not be included in the current total premium. Let's go ahead. Oh, sorry. I actually wanted to be on my friend Abra's menu. So Abra has submitted paperwork that he no longer wishes to have optional life coverage. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to terminate that coverage by using the edit. Anytime that we're terminating coverage or changing coverage from one to another, it always begins by clicking edit, and it always begins by terminating the coverage that is currently in existence. So in order to change a coverage, we have to terminate what is currently there. He's going to go ahead and terminate on March 31st, according to the paperwork that I have. And you'll notice that I was unable to terminate him on that date because it's prior to the effective date of his coverage. So let's go ahead here and put in May 31st and go ahead and hit Submit. And you'll see now that his optional life coverage is terminated as of May 31st. And if I click on Select, I can no longer edit this because it has been terminated. I want to go ahead and move on to another individual and pull him up for you. Actually, I'm going to pull him up utilizing his employee ID. I can click on the eyeball and see what number I typed, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Search. You'll notice that I received a message that this GIC ID, reference ID, or Social Security number does not exist. I could have sworn I entered the right number. I'm going to type it in again. Again, I can look at the eyeball, but I'm going to go ahead and search. And I typed in the wrong number yet again. You'll notice that if you type in the wrong number, you're not going to get any results, and you can't edit somebody that's incorrect, so you don't have to worry about any problems with the wrong person. In this case, I was looking for Abraham Kadabra, and what I wanted to do is show you that Abraham is currently active. He has 4 coverages. Those coverages all add up to this total premium. He has family, so I'm guessing that he has some dependents down here. he has Dorothy, who is a child under 19, and so, but her coverages do terminate in the future on October 31st, which is her 19th birthday. As you all know, she's eligible to continue those coverages after that point, but the initial termination is on the 19th birthday. I'm going to go over here, though, and terminate basic life. You received paperwork to terminate the basic life coverage for this individual, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. You'll notice I typed in the March 31st date, and today is still March, the end of March, and so I am not allowed to terminate this with this term date because the deductions have already been taken for this period. I'm going to go ahead and close out or hit OK, and I'm going to change this date to April 30th. And I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. You'll notice that I am able to terminate April 30th. And what I'd like to draw your attention to is that I terminated basic life, but that also terminated the family coverage and the optional life coverage. So again, going back to the rule that exists, you have to have basic life in order to have health care and optional life. So by terminating the basic life, our system has automatically terminated the other coverages as well. And if I click over here, you'll notice that I can no longer edit those. If you have done any of this in error, you would want to contact your auditor. Additionally, all of this information would then be, this paperwork must be received by us. I want to remind you, I had a question earlier about dependents. The GIC inputs all of the dependents for you, so you want to make sure that you send your paperwork in an expedient manner, and the dependents will be added in. As I showed you earlier, the dependents have dates received for the documentation, and once we've received that documentation and entered your dependents, then their coverage becomes active. Let's go ahead and, well, let me pause here just in case you want to take any notes, make a note of a question that you want to ask of us through Magic Help or through your auditor at a later moment. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, we're going to go over here, and we're going to search for an insured. And we're going to bring up Beatrice Cadabra. Once again, the information is always here on the personal information screen for you to review, allowing you to catch any errors and allowing you to update the HR system so that we would then get the update. In this case, Beatrice is getting divorced. So Beatrice is changing her family health coverage to an individual coverage. I'm going to go ahead and terminate her coverage. Again, I'm going to use April 30th because, as you know, if I used March 31st, her coverages would not be able to be changed because the deduction has already been taken. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this, and I'm going to create a new coverage to replace the coverage that I've terminated. I click here on Coverage Event, which is the qualifying event, which is the divorce. The event date is the 15th of April. Her divorce is going to be finalized. And her new coverages can be effective on May 1st, which is the day after the family coverage is being terminated. I'm going to go ahead and click on Select, and I'm going to choose NHP Prime Individual. As you know, she needs to choose the same carrier, which in this case is NHP. She previously had NHP Family. I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. And you'll notice now that Beatrice has 4 coverages in the active section. You may ask why, so let me remind you that Beatrice's family coverage is still in existence until April 30th of 17. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning, we show future coverages in the active grid as well. So the coverage for her individual that begins on May 1st is listed here as well. Once we get to May 1st, the NHP Prime family coverage would no longer exist on the active view. Please note down below that her dependent, Samuel Cadabra, has been terminated on April 30th as well. I want to take a moment to remind you that you are always making edits which are future. Because of payroll deductions, you wouldn't be able to do something retroactively. All forms must still be sent to the GIC in accordance with the current rules that we talked about at the beginning. And with that being said, let's go ahead and find one more of our folks. And in this case, I searched for Jessica Cadabra. And as always, like a broken record, her personal information is here for you to review at any time. Her coverages are listed here. She actually is an active employee, so we have edit and view capabilities. In this case, you'll notice that Jessica does not have optional life, but your agency, that is one of the benefits that is offered. So you're going to go ahead and submit a request for Jessica to get optional life insurance through the medical EOI, evidence of insurability. That tab is here at the top, and I'm going to go ahead and click that now. I click on EOI, and you'll notice that somebody, myself or my counterpart, has actually already entered 2 medical requests. One for LTD for Jessica and one for life. I can go ahead and I can view these, and I can see that on March 21st, there was an item entered for a life medical request of 4 times Jessica's salary, which amounts to $204,000. This request is in a pending status. Let's go ahead and grab another individual. And we're going to go with Beatrice. So in this case, I want to make a note that Beatrice does not have long-term disability. She's been an employee. She also has her optional life. So Beatrice, we're going to go ahead and click on Medical EOI here, and you'll note she has no medical request. So nobody has entered this yet, so we can click on Add a Medical Request. In the request box, we're going to click LTD. As we know, Beatrice already has life. In the LTD request, there's not a lot of work for us to do here. Pretty much every box is already grayed out and or populated. We don't know the approval date until the carrier provides that, so you wouldn't be entering that here. But you can enter a note if you wish. Entered 3/24/17, whatever the case might be when Beatrice came to my office. These notes are then saved, but we can go ahead and click on Submit here. And you'll notice that Beatrice now has a pending request for LTD. So that you folks know, Beatrice would then receive paperwork in the mail that she needs to provide to Unum, who's the LTD carrier, and they would then proceed. She would complete that, send it back to them, and they would continue evaluating her request. When they send us back the response, it would either be approved or possibly she never replied and her request would just go to closed. This status will update to closed. If she was approved, you will receive information so that you know that she now has a new coverage beginning, what the premium is going to be for that new coverage, and you would also see that the coverage will automatically appear here once the vendor approves her and gives us an effective date for that coverage. Okay. So So we've talked about, let me just go back here, we've talked about benefit management, we've talked about search. You're getting a little tired of seeing abracadabra here. We've talked about search, we've talked about the insured records, and we've talked about the medical EOI. Remember when we were on medical EOI, though, one thing I didn't share with you is that if I want to go back to Abra's personal information screen, I simply click on insured, and it takes me back to his personal information screen with the 3 sections that we've talked about here today. I'm going to go ahead and click back here on the home, and I'm going to go over here. So reports. When you start, so utilizing this new system is going to begin on April 3rd of 2017 for our online agencies. That morning, you will no longer be able to access the old Magic system. This new system and URL will be available to you. And as a reminder, the email will be received the week of March 27th, and it will include the URL for you. It will also include your temporary login and password. And I apologize, your login is the same all the time. Your password is temporary. You'll be immediately asked to change that password to one that you choose, and then you also have the alternative anytime you want, any day, to change your password. Also on April 3rd, we will continue to mail you any type of reports or paperwork that you currently receive. Discrepancies, anything relevant to coverages, to insured. However, we are attempting to roll out our online version of reports so that we can save mailing costs for everybody. We can save some trees. And when that does roll out in the not-too-distant future, you'll come here and click on Reports, and then you'll be able to click on this section here, and you'll be able to look at very specific reports, such as your agency insured report, and it will be here electronically for you. You can then view that report here online anytime, and I was asked how long those reports are available. Right now, the reports are available basically forever. I'm guessing at some point the Group Insurance Commission will decide that they may only show you the last 5 years, the last 10 years, but at some point in time, some of those reports will become too old, and there's no reason to have them here accessible. But that currently is not in existence. So look forward to these reports, and I can tell you that when we start to roll that out, that would be something that would definitely show here in your news and alerts section. If we come back here to admin, the admin section is so that you can update information for us regarding your agency. You come here, once again, you'll see that there's a search box. So if you are a coordinator that has multiple agencies, you could search here for a specific agency out of your long list. You could also, you'll notice the select button is the same as you've seen throughout our system. And I'm going to go ahead and click on edit here. And I've noticed that the P.O. box is incorrect. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. And click submit. Let's go ahead and view. You'll notice I changed it to 5854, and that now appears here. Your information is instantaneous. So, for example, if tonight the Group Insurance Commission was sending out a piece of mail, that mail would go to the Group Insurance Commission at P.O. Box 5854, as I say, because that information is instantaneously updated in the database. And you can edit your authorized user, and make sure that we know if your information is changing here, because you as a coordinator are moving on to a new position. Even if you change your information there and put the new coordinator's information in, you still want to be very careful, because we still need to make sure that that person gets set up for access to the system, and we'll visit that in a moment. I want to go back to the home, and throughout utilizing this system, this video that you're watching will continue to be available on the GIC website. Additionally, And so that would be there if you wanted to watch it again, if you haven't had enough of me. Or maybe you hire a new employee in your agency and you want them to watch this video so that they can become acclimated to the system. However, additionally, we are providing a help section which includes videos. And we've broken these videos down into short 1-minute videos. I'm going to go ahead and take my volume off here. And the video appears.
There are 3 different methods for searching for an insured or dependent in the Magic system. You can search by an insured's ID. Enter their numbers. Please note that for security purposes, we are not showing you the data on the screen. If you do need to see what you type, click on the I, hold down, and it will reveal what you type. If you do not have the insured's reference ID or employee ID, which can be entered here.
As you can hear, this video is telling you exactly what I told you during this training session today. The videos are about 1 minute in length, typically, and that's because we don't want you to have to watch something that's 10 minutes long just to find that one little piece of information you're looking for.
It's also important to know that you cannot have more than one of these sections populated, or search will not work.
Okay. So as we come to a close today, I do want to bring up a couple of reminders. I forgot to open a document for you, so I have to open it right now, which is not necessarily what I typically do. Okay, so as a reminder, the new Magic system is becoming available on April 3rd, 2017 at 7 a.m. for online coordinators. You still must send us all of your paperwork here to the GIC, and it must be received in the appropriate time. You need to enter the coverages for any of the insureds and forward along their information so that we can then verify that they can have those coverages and any dependents that need to be associated with that coverage. The link will be on the GIC Coordinator website, as I mentioned, and also just a reminder, the feeds from HRCMS come in weekly and the feeds from UMass come in every other week. So for those of you that are on the webinar today, if for some reason you are attending this, watching this, but you actually don't have access to Magic and you need access, you need to contact the security officer at your agency. This also is applicable, as I mentioned, if you wanted to change because you're moving on to a new position. Even though you change the coordinator name in our application under agency, that new person would still need to go through this proper channels of the security officer in order to activate access to Magic. If you currently have access to the Magic system, but you did not receive a welcome email with a login and temporary password, we would ask that you would contact Stacy Hickey, and her email is listed here. This is something that you would want to write down. Stacy, notice the .ie, .hickey@state.ma.us. And lastly, as I mentioned on our homepage, if you have technical issues, you can contact magic.help@massmail.state.ma.us. This is on the homepage, as you've seen during today's session. Stacy's email is not, so that's the piece of information that you'd want to write down now. That concludes our webinar for today, and I'm going to go ahead and stop recording, and I'm going to go ahead and say good luck to all of you, and we look forward to working with you, and have a great day.